Having crossed the sword bridge, Lancelot stepped into the kingdom of Gore, a land beset by a dark and overwhelming atmosphere. The silence was unsettling, broken only by the wind howling between the rocks and the crackling of solitary crows. Lancelot suddenly felt the weight of the atmosphere on his shoulders, as if the air itself was permeated with an evil energy. Then, Lancelot spotted an incoming knight in the distance. He was dressed in imposing armor and a feathered helmet, and his shield sported a coat of arms he could not recognize. Hoping to obtain information about Guinevere's whereabouts, Lancelot sped up to meet the knight. As they got closer, the knight greeted Lancelot with a friendly voice and a polite smile. For his part, Lancelot asked about Queen Guinevere's whereabouts, and the knight was extremely happy to help him. He stated that he knew where the queen was being held and offered to take him there. Relying on the knight's noble appearance and gentle words, Lancelot accepted his offer and followed him down a path off the main road. They came to an imposing castle with high walls and menacing towers. As soon as Lancelot crossed the castle gates, the knight revealed his true intentions. With an evil smirk, he ordered Lancelot to put his hands up, as he had been captured and was now his prisoner. The castle doors slammed shut behind Lancelot, and he found himself encircled by enemies, trapped in an unknown place. He was yet thrown again into a dark, damp dungeon, with stone walls and iron bars. The door shut with a menacing bang, and the knight was enveloped in darkness and silence. The shame of being duped was compounded by the frustration of having been pulled away from his quest for Guinevere. He carefully surveyed his surroundings, looking for a loophole, a weakness in the prison structure. He found that the iron bars blocking the window were rusty and fragile. He managed, with an extraordinary effort, to tear them away from the wall, opening a passage to the outside. Using the night darkness to his advantage, Lancelot started to move stealthily in search of his armor and sword. He was as gentle as a big cat, his steps silent and his movements accurate, while avoiding the creaking of the floorboards. Then a voice suddenly called Lancelot's name. Although it was only a low whisper, the feminine sound was unique to the knight. It was the voice of the woman who dwelt in his heart. Guinevere stood in the small cell lit only by a shimmering candle. When she spotted Lancelot, the queen's face flashed with lightning, and a trembling smile appeared on her lips. With his heart beating fast in his chest, Lancelot grabbed Guinevere's hand and felt that the first stage of his mission had been achieved. But now he had to find a way to free her. Guinevere told the knight that she was certain he would show up to save her. Lancelot succeeded in surprising and defeating the watchman guarding the armory. He managed to recover his sword and armor, and looked set to face Sir Maleagant and bring the weight of the blade of justice down on him. However, as expected, Maleagant was not honorable enough to take on Lancelot in a duel. He ordered his guards to clear the entire world of Lancelot's presence. But this time, Lancelot was ready for combat and would face any adversary standing in his way, knowing that fate works in favor of the righteous. The experienced knight prevented his enemies from surrounding him entirely, preventing him from being struck in the back. Like this, Lancelot defeated one henchman at a time until there was no enemy left between him and the dishonored knight who had kidnapped his queen. Lancelot fought Maleagant with a lust for revenge, attacking with lion-like savagery. His blows, powerful and relentless. Each strike, each defense, bore the force of his outrage at Maleagant's betrayal, the humiliation he had suffered in the chariot, and the suffering inflicted on Guinevere. His opponent teased him further by saying that he could sense in his eyes that such anger came from more than just a sense of duty and justice, that he could clearly see that the knight was desperately in love with his queen. But he had no need to worry, since after the death of the Camelot knight, he would honor him for his courage by naming the son he would have with Guinevere Lancelot. The very sight of Guinevere next to that monster unleashed an unbridled fury in Lancelot's heart. the knight delivered such a brutal blow that he broke his enemy's sword and ended his life. His revenge was now complete, and the cost of having sullied his reputation had been worth it, for the queen was safe. Once her freedom had been secured, the tearful queen threw herself into Lancelot's arms and hugged him tightly. Lancelot embraced her gently, feeling her body shudder in his arms. The feeling of having her there, unharmed, brought unparalleled joy to his heart. In that moment of reunion, the grief and trials of the journey melted away. The knight declared that he would brave any danger or enemy to protect his queen. With its perils and conflicts, the outside world vanished, leaving only Lancelot and Guinevere, bound in a loving and grateful embrace. Lancelot and Guinevere rode off on the same horse towards Camelot. On the way, the knight and the queen recounted the challenges they had encountered that day. That was when Lancelot spoke of his moment of doubt, when he was forced to defile his honor and reputation by climbing into the convict's chariot. Astonished by his confession, Guinevere looked at him with outrage, asking if he had dared, for even an instant, to follow her and rescue her. Lancelot attempted to justify himself, mentioning the code of honor of a knight, but was cut short by Guinevere, who asked him where her honor was as a queen when she found herself on her own and at the mercy of the villain. Perceiving the wrongness of his words, Lancelot became defensive, and the two argued intensely. At the peak of the quarrel, the passion they both felt finally found the break it had been waiting for and escaped the scrutiny of reason. The couple kissed passionately, a whirlwind of restrained emotions finally unleashed. In their moment of prohibited love, Lancelot and Guinevere merged into a single being, forgetting the outside world. Love was shattering its barriers, passion was overcoming reason. Following the passionate kiss, an emotionally charged hush fell between Lancelot and Guinevere. While still embracing, Guinevere, caressing Lancelot's face, sorrowfully whispered that it was a wonderful but fleeting moment. It was a forbidden love, a flame burning in secrecy, never to be shown in the daylight. With his heart aching, Lancelot nodded in agreement, saying that fate had brought them together in an impossible situation. She was his king's wife, the queen he had vowed to protect and serve, and he the knight who was meant to be the most loyal of all at the round table. Lancelot took Guinevere's hand, kissed it softly, and said, "Even if our love is never truly fulfilled, my queen, I will treasure this moment in my heart forever. The memory of your love will strengthen me to face any challenge, to overcome any obstacle." With tearful eyes, Guinevere nestled into his arms. The loving couple accepted the real nature of their fate, the impossibility of a future together. But passion raged in their hearts, a shared secret that would unite them forever, even if from a distance, even if in secret. A forbidden love, like a flower born among the stones, now finding a way to bloom in the shadows, sustained by the memory of that moment when it was allowed to burst into life.